South Africans from low-income households are struggling to meet their daily needs. Well, that's according to the May Household Affordability Index. Conducted by the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group, it warns things will only get worse for these households. For more on this, I'm joined by the group's Mervyn Abrams from our Durban studios. Good evening, Mervyn. Thanks very much for your time. Your report, of course, is not telling South Africans something we didn't know.
Yes, Vuyo. Ordinary South Africans are very, very aware of the fact that the competition within the household budget between what we pay for food, what we pay for transport, what we pay for electricity and municipal services, etc. And I think most South African households will say that the increase in the cost of, for instance, electricity and water is having an effect on their budget in order to procure the level of nutritious food that we require. And that has become a real economic issue, apart from the fact of human dignity and the right to life.
You know, during elections, we were, of course, bombarded, with messages from politicians who were telling us that, they could create jobs. How much of that is really a problem and really making other big business, for example, think that it is not their responsibility to create jobs?
Vuyo, I think it's important that we in this country have a national debate around the economy that is reasonable and that we as a country can actually engage in. Most people in the townships will tell us that they are young people with the necessary skills and the entrepreneurial spirit in order to produce goods and services. The difficulty that these young potential entrepreneurs experience is that no one in their communities are able to purchase the goods or services that they can produce. So the question really is there are three things that we believe. The first is the question around, is it skills deficit that is leading to this high levels of unemployment? Or is it an economy that is not producing jobs? At the second level, we need to look at how much money is floating around in low-income areas that can actually stimulate production and the possibility of work. And what we are finding is that there just is not enough money in the local economy in order to stimulate what could become a consumer-led growth. When we look at, for instance, the median wage for a black South African worker, it is 3,000 rand. Our food basket of 31 very basic foods alone come to 3,000 rand. So basically what it is that there just is not enough money. Wages are too low. Unemployment is just too high. What can we do to stimulate a consumer-led economic development at local township level?
Well, we saw last year after the announcement of the increase in VAT that more foods were actually zero rated. Is that a solution? Has it helped?
In one sense, Vuyo, I think for any ordinary South African, low-income South African, they would say every 5 rand helps. And so what we have seen is the zero rating of 19 foods, and it has brought the basket down by possibly around 25 rand. But when we look at the basket of food that ordinary South Africans, low-income South Africans say they would like to purchase, then we still see that about 7% of that basket, or roughly around 209 rand out of that 3,000 rand, is still going to value-added tax. And so what we are saying is that actually value-added tax should be taken away from all basic foods, not just from a few foods, because in a sense, it does not change the pattern of what households are able to afford to buy.
Your report, of course, also raises the issue of nutrition. In other words, it's not only about the ability to buy food, but to actually buy food that is nutritious.
Yes, and I think that is really an area that is becoming of particular concern. When we look at the fact that about 30% of all boy children under the age of 5 are stunted. Stunting in most cases are irreversible. So essentially all our investment into education, all our investment into health, and great investment are being made in those two areas, will actually go to naught for all those children who are stunted. And so it is really imperative that we look at the level of nutrition, because nutrition also has an economic value. Nutrition directly contributes to productivity and the economy. It directly contributes to the educational outcomes that we will see later on in life. So if families are not able to purchase nutritious food and they only purchase the starches that are needed for us to be full, to feel that we have eaten, then in a sense we are crippling the potential for economic growth 10 years down the line.
Mervyn Abrams, thank you very much for your time this evening. He is from the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group.